Hi guys, it's Balazs from Racing Brick. In my first video about the rough terrain crane, I compared it with the mobile crane MK2. If you missed that video, then you can watch it by clicking on the link above. Now it's time for another comparison. This time I will compare it with itself. This B model is something special because it is not a completely different build. The carrier and technically the first half of the building process is identical. What is different is the superstructure and the machine's functionality. You might say that this is a lazy design approach, but I think it is quite practical. You don't need to dismantle the whole model, and remember we are talking about 4000 pieces, so you only remove the superstructure and you need to rebuild that one. Another benefit, which is again useful considering the piece count, if you prefer to build the B model first, then you don't need to hunt for the parts from the full inventory. The first half can be built following the bag numbering. Unfortunately, this is not the case for the second half, so the bags from 9 to 13 needs to be opened all at once. I strongly suggest to take some time and sort the pieces, that will save you a lot of time later. Another interesting fact, despite the identical lower sections, the first part of the instructions for the A and B model are different. The A model's instructions are significantly shorter and the steps are rendered differently. Here's an example where the A model's instructions are much better organized. Maybe the length was not a concern for the B model, since the instructions are only digital there. So this is the carrier part at the end of the first book. I usually put on all the stickers during my reviews, since they are part of the original design concept, but I know a lot of people are not a fan of stickers. So this time I decided to skip them to see if the look and the functionality is better with or without them. This is how the assembly looks at around the third of the second book. This is the first time when we are instructed to turn on the battery box to wind up the rope. We can already see that the superstructure is quite different from the A model. It has a lot of gears and switches inside, so we will have multiple functions for sure. At step 821, make sure you pay attention to the cable arrangement. The cable there should not touch the gear below because that can damage the cable during the operation. Approximately 50 steps later, we attach the superstructure to the carrier. At this point we are instructed to do another test to see if the assembly so far works properly or not. I find these status checks quite useful because we can find any potential problems during the building process. At this point of the assembly we can already see how the mobile pipe driver will work. The rope goes all the way to this vertical structure that is essentially a guide framework for the weight. We attach a weight to the rope that will be used to drive the piles into the platform we'll build later on. After this there's a cabin to be built and attached, and then the body panels covering the rear of the superstructure from all sides. All we have left are the pads for the outriggers and the platform that has the holes for the piles. After looking at the final result, I can say that I definitely prefer the model with stickers. It looks weird and naked without them. They are also needed for the function selectors. Without them it's more difficult to memorize what is their purpose. The basic functionalities work the same way, the steering is the same and the fake engines operate similarly too. The brick built limiters on the battery box switches are not identical, but their functionality is the same. The switch can only be pushed in one direction. Accessing the battery box is definitely easier on the A model, since the rear section can be opened. Unfortunately that part is fixed on the B model. According to some critiques, the superstructures are also very similar. If you look closely we can see that the overall shape might be similar, but the part usage and the whole structure is actually very different. The powered functions of the carrier are the same, the deployment of the outriggers is identical. Now let's see what's different. The cabin has a different look with some nice details, including an adjustable seat, and it has an extra functionality. It can be raised and lowered with a lever. Now let's see the full deployment process from start to finish. And now let's see how the mobile file driver actually does its job. And at the end, this is the process how the mobile file driver can become mobile again. I think this is a great B model, despite the similarities and the shared carrier with the A model. I definitely suggest to build it. The functionality is very different, and it is something unique I did not see it yet in LEGO form. I'm actually quite happy that despite the high piece count, this set still had a B model. Seeing the newer Technic sets without one is not a good tendency. If you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you don't want to miss my future videos. This month will be full of reviews, so stay tuned. See you next time!